How is your outreach to get to people of influence that can help grow this and support this in such a way?
Yeah, so we get to people like Terry Bradshaw by doing what we do. So for 8, 9 years, just doing these sports camps, getting invited to things like the Super Bowl and being a part of Radio Row. I was able to sit, if you don't know the story of Rocky Bleier, Rocky's one of the greats in NFL football, at least in my opinion, but great for so many other reasons than winning 4 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers and being Franco Harris's main blocking back and running back that got 1,000 yards, all those kind of things. Rocky's a hero. He didn't decline his obligation to go to Vietnam, and he wound up getting a grenade, got shot, was left for dead, and was literally pulled out in the middle of the night and rescued by an unknown soldier that he still doesn't know today. He says 2 big black hands grabbed him in the middle of the night, threw him over his shoulder, and took him to safety. And it wasn't an easy trip. A couple of guys had already tried to pull Rocky out of the jungle, and they had to quit and try to go get help.
And now here is singer-songwriter, broadcaster, audio-video artist, entertainment agent, and your host. It's the master storyteller himself, James Kevin O'Connor.
Hey, 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 it's a beautiful day. Another fine day and another fine episode on podcasting your global career. Do me a favor and send this show to someone who may need it, because after this episode, you will agree that this is a strong move to do so. It is a pleasure to kick off the year with this interview. This is a friend of mine who we became, connected about a year ago, and he's a fellow podcaster. He's also an author, a speaker, former college athlete. He's the director of Disability Dream and Do, which is the D3-day sports camps created in partnership with Dave Clark. He's also the co-author of this fabulous book called Pulling Each Other Along, which focuses on helping disability children and raising them up. So this is packed with insight and excitement and entertainment all rolled into one. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Doug J. Cornfield from Corning, New York.
Doug, thanks for being here on Podcasting Your Global Career. The second time is definitely the charm. I think the internet widgets have rested their cutting blades and leaving us alone for a little time.
I hope so. I mean, I think
Yeah.
those widgets were on my end the last time, which I'm typically up to speed on the technology, especially for an old man like myself. But the widgets got me last time.
Hey, hats off to you, man. You're plugging in to the wall to get your, advanced copper connection, which nobody's doing these days. And that's the best way to do it, folks. As somebody who's a former telecom contractor, I can tell you. Let's talk about your brand, Pulling Each Other Along, the collective and the business in general and the organization in general. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. And I have read your book. It's fascinating, Pulling Each Other Along. So why don't we start with that? Would you just share with us how you came to be in this space and the development of this great project that you've put together?
Yeah, so it's not something I sought out to do, James. It was one of those things that I believe, whatever you want to call it, the winds, predestination, whatever your definition of that all is. I think that's where I'm sitting right now, and I don't think I'd have been able to keep going without that kind of pull on my life. But I have a son that was born with neither arm. I'll try to make this story short. When he was just a baby, before he was walking, I read a story about a man named Dave Clark, who is the only professional baseball player to ever play on crutches. And he's lived in the small town of Corning, New York, where I now reside. And when we were moving my family from Atlanta to New York is when I found out about his story. And as it would be, Dave's winds blew him back to New York, and he was living here full time and coaching in baseball, but also scouting full time, I think, for the San Diego Padres when I had just met him. And anyway, so we formed a friendship over the years. I was able to meet him 23 years ago, almost, with my son in my arms. And really, I found out then a special connection that he has for people with limitations, some disabilities, some challenges, extra challenges, if you want to call them that. And he saw that in my son. And so we had him over for dinner. He became a client of mine. And then before you know it, I left the financial world to partner with him to promote his great story. But a big part of our focus became disability sports camps. So here I've got this incredible story to share to people that's inspirational about how a man who is basically polio stricken at 10 months old, never walked without crutches and braces, yet didn't let that stop him to even play professional baseball at the minor league level in this country, major league level in Sweden, but then to coach in the Olympics, coach for the Atlanta Braves, manage teams that were championship teams at high levels. And so when I'm finding this out, this is a story now that I get to bring and share to people. And the pulling each other along is just a part of that. But the pulling each other along has become one of our main themes because of a story that I got brought into when Dave wrote a book about his life story, that Dave Clark, the Diamond in the Rough, the Dave Clark story, where he thanked people that pulled him along in his life. And so one of those was a little boy in first grade that Dave never forgot. His name is Ernie Pound, but Dave had all these anxieties built up about a field trip where he was walking 5 blocks away to the local fire hall. And so for the little boy in crutches and braces, this was a nightmare. And he didn't even want to go to school. He tried to act sick. Day of the event comes, his mom knows he's not sick, so he's off to school. And he goes to the back of the line thinking this is going to be his absolute worst day of his life. And unknown to him, young Ernie Pound brought his radio flyer wagon to school that day to pull him. And so I'm a father with a child with major special needs, neither arm developed. And when I'm reading that story, I get the goosebumps every time. And so where I come in is I was just simply helping Dave organize book signings for his new book that had come out now years ago. And I found Ernie, and they hadn't seen each other since first grade. And Ernie wound up coming to the event, not because he remembered Dave, but because he remembered the wagon. And unknown to Dave, he puts a book underneath Dave's nose and says, sign this one to Ernie Pound. And so that little bitty act of kindness, we're still talking about 55, 60 years later. And we started sharing that story at keynotes. We created an award called the Pulling Each Other Along Award that we give out at our Disability Dream and Do sports camps. And then we wrote a book called Pulling Each Other Along. And now we have a podcast called Pulling Each Other Along. And we even have a group of people that are now joining together, business people, entrepreneurs, some other great nonprofit organizations, to come together to help pull each other along. And that's called the Pulling Each Other Along Collective. So that's about as short as I can do it, James.
Yeah, it was really, really good. What is your son's name?
His name is Gideon, which there's a whole story behind that name. We had homeschooled our kids for a big portion of I have 7 kids. He's number 5. And we did a name study on names. And the crazy thing that we found out, because Gideon he was 2 months early, so we hadn't even thought about names at that point. Yeah. And my wife said she wanted to name him Gideon. And then his middle name is Richard, which is my father's name. And so when we found out the meaning of Gideon, it had, warrior, all these kind of different meanings to him. But one of the meanings of his name Gideon is like man with stumps in place of arm and hands.
Wow. And you guys didn't
so we had no idea.
Yeah.
So that was just one of those things, was like how is this possible for us?
How old is he now?
He is 24. You're putting him a test. So he's 24 years old. He's been a big part of our organization, promoting us through his young life. He was a big part of our fundraising. He's done some speaking for us as well. And, just an amazing young man that's, like most young men, is trying to figure out his next path or, his next way, but he hasn't let his limitations hold him back.
Yeah, this must be, this whole story must be so inspirational for him, and also give him a special place that, he feels like he belongs, and he's a major contributor to what you guys are doing. No?
Yes, he has been, and he's trying to figure out what he wants to do next in business. And it potentially could be working with us, but it also could be something completely different. He's got some other desires. He's a big history buff. So I'm actually trying to, hey, Gideon, you know all this stuff about history. If you talk about something, he's going to give you a history nugget. And I've actually talked to him about doing some more stuff on YouTube, doing a future podcast. But he's at that point where he's trying to figure that out.
Yeah, a possible history teacher on YouTube. That'd be awesome. Tell us also about, now you have some major sports people helping support this organization. I know Terry Bradshaw. Can you talk about how you guys got connected? Was it just through the story? Did somebody know somebody? Did Terry come along and say, hey, I feel passionate about this? I guess I want to know that. And also, how is your outreach to get to people of influence that can help grow this and support this in such a way?
Yeah, so we get to people like Terry Bradshaw by doing what we do. So for 8-9 years, just doing these sports camps, getting invited to things like the Super Bowl and being a part of Radio Row. I was able to sit, if you don't know the story of Rocky Bleier, Rocky's one of the greats in NFL football, at least in my opinion, but great for so many other reasons than winning 4 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers and being Franco Harris's main blocking back and running back that got 1,000 yards, all those kind of things. Rocky's a hero. He didn't decline his obligation to go to Vietnam, and he wound up getting a grenade, got shot, was left for dead, and was literally pulled out in the middle of the night and rescued by an unknown soldier that he still doesn't know today. He says 2 big black hands grabbed him in the middle of the night, threw him over his shoulder, and took him to safety. And it wasn't an easy trip. A couple of guys had already tried to pull Rocky out of the jungle, and they had to quit and try to go get help.
I read that in the book. That was amazing. What a story.
Yeah, and there was a made-for-television movie back in 1980, the Rocky Bleier story. And so I knew about Rocky my whole life. But to get to sit beside him, literally face-to-face for a day and a half at the Super Bowl and really get to meet him, if I was going to pick 5 people I would want to meet like that, he would have probably been one of them. Somebody in the disability community, an athlete, high level, great story. But he's also a great person. And so he agreed to be a part of our book. We kind of co-wrote that story together, that chapter. And then when we were thinking about who to get involved as to write the forward, he was able to reach out to Terry's family and get Terry to agree to that. So that's how those things happen. They happen by doing.
Yeah.
And telling your story and telling it again and telling it again and meeting other people and meeting new people. And so that's how we've met a lot of our folks, just by doing.
Yeah. What is the best part of your day, Doug, when you're doing this kind of work and you're specifically involved in this particular project? What's the best part of your day?
So, I do so many things. So the best part of my day would be when we actually do a camp. When I'm running a camp and I've got 80 to 100, 120, upwards of 120 families and children and young adults with all different situations on the field. And then really the best part of my day is after it's over and I get to see all the pictures.
Yeah.
That's when I get to experience the camp, because during the camp, I'm running it. I'm telling people where to go. People are coming up, asking me questions. And we have a flow to our Disability Dream Do sports camps that really works well. But still, at the end of the day, I don't get to experience it like other people. I get to experience it when I get to see all the pictures that come my way. And I bet you I have at least 1 million pictures now somewhere on my computers and storages of all of the different events that we've done. So if I was going to say that's what keeps me going. But on the business end, we have to fund these things. We don't charge. We charge zero, and getting sponsors is not the easiest thing in the world. There's not a lot of ROI for putting a logo on the back of a shirt and on our signs and those kind of things. And so we've done our own business, speaking events, our own products. Now the podcast is a huge part of what I do. And so what I do is I share the story of what we do, and then I'm collectively bringing people together to be a part of that. And that's really my mission right now. That's a big pivot for us in this last year, using the podcast to meet people, bring great people, share their stories. But then when it's appropriate, also taking the opportunity to say, hey, do you want to be a part of what we're doing? And giving them that opportunity, but creating a means for them to hopefully create a return on that investment as well.
Yeah, we also need to fund your storage drive for your 1 million pictures too. I can imagine your storage drive is blowing up.
I got Dropbox, I got iCloud, and it's funny. Those are the things, the expenses that people don't realize.
Yeah.
My web development, of course, our travel, they think, oh, you're just putting on this little camp for people or whatever. I'm like, oh no, you don't know. I've got to fly to these places. I got to make sure wheelchairs can get on and off and where the bathrooms are. And you can't do that on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
That's just not the way it works. And we've done camps from Florida, Connecticut, North Carolina, Tennessee, upstate New York here, downstate New York. So the whole plethora of what has to happen is so much more than just showing up and giving out some t-shirts and hats and putting kids on the field.
Yeah, it's really amazing what you guys have done, both your efforts and collectively being able to pull all these people in and collectively pull each other along. So kudos to you. Best place for people to connect to you, Doug, and the organization. Where would you like to send people to reach out and support this?
Yeah. So currently the pullingeachotheralong.com page. And if they're interested in being a part of our collective, it's not a low ticket item, but it's also not a super high ticket to be a part of this. And we're committed to helping business people, entrepreneurs, even some nonprofits to be a part of this, to network and create ROI. But they also get some really special things from us. One is they get an online, whatever you want to call it, an event, a webinar, or whatever your terminology is, with Dave Clark and I to share our stories, which are many, especially when you go to the Dave Clark side. I mean, just imagine being 5'2" and being scorned for playing professional baseball. He's got the stories. He was a front runner in all of this before it was popular. Yeah. And so you get to hear his immense stories that are so meaningful, and people connect with that. And so we're offering an online seminar for marketing purposes for our people that come a part of the collective. But then they're all collectively sponsoring all of the events that we do, hopefully year after year as we build this team. And then they get on our podcast, which, as you well know, our podcast is now a top 1% podcast. We're getting notoriety, we're getting the downloads, so we're able to promote our collective members in that way. And so, and we have other things that we're doing as well, monthly meetings to connect. And so with that, we will be able to expand their marketing dollars at the same time, be a great support for what Dave Clark, and I have another Dave Stevens, and other folks that are involved that will be pulling all of these families along and creating memories for them and creating an event that explores their potential. That's really what we're about.
Yeah, and for you folks who don't know what the Pantheon.fm is, that is the group that both Doug and I are members of, that is considered the 1% podcasters, meaning there's like 4.5 million podcasts out there, but only about 20,000 are really relevant, which means they put out regular good content every week after week after week. And that's what we're fortunate enough to do for you folks. So you're in good hands if you join Dave's organization. There's a lot of benefits, a lot of side benefits that we didn't even discuss here. So Dave, Doug, I want to thank you so much for being a part of podcasting your global career. And I want to wish all of God's blessings on you, your family, and your career, and also pulling each other along, and especially Gideon.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to the day when we have a song regarding pulling each other along, or a pound of kindness, or disability dream and do. However that song works out, it all fits together for us, and we just look forward to working together with you in the future as well.
Hey, if you guys like what's going on here, please leave a great review in the Apple Podcasts. I've left a simple review process in the show notes, and we'd really appreciate it. And also, don't be shy. Forward this to your best friend, because you know they need it. Hey, if you need some coaching, hit up the link in the show notes. It's calendly.com/Dharmic. And you can take a little chance with me, and I'll get you on your way. That's a wrap for me today. I'm your host, James Kevin O'Connor. So until the next time when we meet again, I'll either see you on the socials, or I'll see you from the stage.
Ride on, baby, won't you take a ride with me? Ride on, we can untangle all the mystery. If wishes were windows, I'd open one and find that freedom is really a simple state of mind. destiny. I taste the breeze of freedom, it's tingling on my tongue. You and I out on the road will stay forever young. We'll stay forever young. So ride on, baby, won't you take a ride with me? Ride on, we can untangle all the mystery. Ride on, baby, you and I can find the key. Ride on, we can unlock each other's destiny. I'll take you places that you've never seen. I'll take you places that you never dreamed. I'll take you places that were pictures in your mind. I'll take you places beyond the reach of time. So ride on, baby, won't you take a ride with me? Ride on, we can untangle all the mystery. Ride on, baby, you and I can find the key. Ride on, we can unlock each other's destiny. Won't you take a ride with me? Come on and take a ride with me. Want you to take